Welcome to the Consultants Way podcast, your go-to resource for all things professional services consulting. Brought to you by McMahon & Ransford, a strategy consulting firm with over 30 years of experience helping B2B organizations achieve sustainable growth, and the Consultants Way, the leading comprehensive consultant development program. Hosted by Dean McMahon and Anthony Paluska, we share expert insights, firsthand experiences, and conversations with industry leaders on the topics that interest you most.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of their employer, company, or affiliated organizations.
Welcome back to the Consultants Way podcast. Anthony Paluska, and there's Dean McMahon. Hey, Dean, how are you?
Great, doing super today, Anthony. How are you?
I am doing great. I am hoping that this is the last time that I will record from this particular room, which means that I move out of where I'm living right now.
So your house is ready? Your house is ready?
No, but soon, very soon. They say any day now. Yeah.
Okay. Any day now. All right.
So I'm hoping it's the end of this room. Although I've kind of grown to like it a little bit, but that's where we're at. So that's what's going on in my life.
Yeah. Well, here we are in the middle of what if everybody doesn't know, Anthony and I actually live in the same town, the Houston area, and we're having one of the few freezes, cold times we ever have. So. Be looking forward to this to go by. But today, exciting.
Today we have John Bigenwald on the show, and been working with John for a little while now. Got to know John and his leadership style, leadership philosophy. Thought it would be a great addition to the podcast and to share with the rest of the community on this topic, because he truly embraces, and you summarize this really nicely at the end, Dean, of what does it truly mean to be a leader and driving change and driving growth for your team and your organization. And John has lots of experience doing that, lots of nice ways to think about that, and shares a lot of his examples there. Dean, any big takeaways from you from this conversation?
When we were together, I was talking about how the most challenging thing we see in our marketplace right now is leadership. And that whenever I'm doing CEO work or something, I always try to get them to repeat or accept that leadership is only about other people. And John absolutely does that naturally. So what I want to challenge all of us to do watching John today, and get to know John, by the way, is watch his humble, involved way to move people to success. And I think that's just amazing.
Yeah, I want to get that going and share that with him. But you do have lots of conversations with leaders, Dean, and you're at different levels of, right, hey, just because you're senior doesn't mean you're behaving like a leader in many cases. And I've heard you in several conversations trying to coach people on how to do better at that. What are some just practical tips and guidance for anybody? It doesn't matter what level you're at, right? Anybody can be a better leader. What are some guidance you'd give anybody listening right now?
Yeah. So we'll talk about leader from leading people, not just leading the organization, but
Correct.
leading the people. One is clarity. I think people that work too hard to work around a topic lose people. Or to bring to bear too many words and too many concepts over a short period of time. So clarity is really key. Of course, listening, having a structure how we communicate to each other so that we're efficient. Although that's a challenge for most. And I think the last thing, which is kind of surprising for me right now, is in our effort to communicate, we're over communicating on things that aren't helpful and under communicating on things that are helpful. Yeah. But to sum it all up, a few years ago when I won an award in our industry, they asked me what I thought I did different. And you've worked with me a long time, so if I'm absolutely wrong about this, don't tell everybody now.
Yeah,
but I think you need to care. I think you honestly need to care about them. And if you care about them, that'll leak out and people will know. But clarity, I would say, is the thing I see the least.
Yeah, I like clarity. I'll send you my comments on your award and your comment
Yeah,
on caring separately. But no, but I do like clarity because in thinking about that, right? Nothing loses confidence in an organization more rather than what seems to be uncertainty or unsureness of a leader themselves. And that often isn't because they're uncertain, but because they're ambiguous or they're over communicating, to your point, too many of the details around it where the key message gets lost in something like that. And yeah, clarity, directness, maybe, but directness doesn't necessarily mean, be rude about it, but like be very clear and specific about what you're trying to say. I think that helps motivate and rally a team and make sure that they're clear on what the expectations are of them in the process. So I like that key point.
Yeah, one last thought
Yeah.
on that before we go to John. I was doing work years ago with a new CEO of a major Fortune, maybe a Fortune 10 company, and he said about clarity. He said, if you're clear and someone doesn't want to do what you want done, you've done them a favor because they can opt out of your company.
Yeah.
And he goes, lack of clarity keeps people pursuing things that you're not ever going to be able to give them. Yeah. So I thought that was a nice way to look at clarity. Helps people.
Yeah, you're not doing them a favor by making it feel like you're being inclusive of that point or being unclear about this is exactly what we are going to do and not going to do, which sometimes might be how it feels in the moment. Hey, I don't want to break it to this person that the odds are we're not going to pursue that direction. We're going to do something else instead. But I think that's a good message as well, which is, yeah, you're actually doing a disservice to everybody involved by not being clear and explicit on things that you all already have decided and intend to do. So, yeah, no, I like it. All right, we will kick it back to us talking to John here now, and hope you enjoy the conversation, everybody. Hey, John, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, Anthony. Thanks, Dean. It's great to join.
Yeah, no, excited to have you here. I think we got a great topic lined up today. Before we dive into that, John, you've got a lot of experience in professional services and in the consulting space broadly. Can you share with the audience a little bit of your background? We'll have done some of that on the front end, but you'll do it better.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, I've been in professional services since the late '90s, and career has crossed a lot of different technologies. I mean, I started out as a Lotus Notes developer of all things, and one of the.
I've always wanted to meet one, John.
Well, you met one of the last ones, what I've taken from that, I started off in the business. I worked actually for an insurance company. My first job in IT was it was basically the help desk for agents in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And I realized after about 18 months of doing that, that I enjoyed it. I was pretty good at it. But there was no future here, because if there were a future here, they wouldn't have given me the job in the first place, right? And so I went to a small software company where I did a lot of pre and post sales support. It was a small team with a small company, doing everything. One of the first things I had to do was review the user manual. We're about to have a release. And so my boss thought, well, the best way to learn this is to go through the user manual. So I did, and it was an AS400 product, green screen. I'm doing one of the examples, and it's blowing up on me, right? AS400s. And so I go to my boss. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Oh, no, you're doing it right. You found a bug. And so he goes, why don't you go tell Michelle about the bug? Little did I know he was setting me up. Because I go back to Michelle. I think I'm a hero. We're about to release this with a bug. I'm a hero for finding this. Michelle, I found a bug. I'm going through this example. Well, why would anyone do that? Like, I don't know. It's an example in our documentation, and well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why would anyone do that? I'm like, I don't. So I learned real quickly that they're with developers, you don't tell them that their stuff's wrong, and so. But you learn from from working with clients and then moving into notes. You're working real close with the business, and you're talking to people about what they're trying to accomplish. And I think that really set me up throughout my career for understanding that we're not doing IT for IT's sake. We can do a lot of cool stuff, but if we're not solving problems, if we're not enabling people to take advantage of business opportunities, then what we're doing doesn't matter. We need to understand what it is, why we're doing it, who we're doing it for. And so I've taken that through my career, working as a notes developer and then really moving off of notes into SharePoint, into Microsoft, and then further into the Microsoft world. A lot of M365, a lot of SharePoint. Now we're moving into the AI world with, not just with Copilot, but with all the different models that are out there. But through it all, it's why are we doing this? Answering that question of why.
Yeah.
John, I'm amazed that still is a discussion all the time,
Yeah.
right? What are you trying to solve? How do you help them solve it? Why do
Yep.
you think that matters when it doesn't matter to them? It's a very consistent innovation, in this case, tech innovation to outcomes. And it's always fresh. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's something that I try and bring to my team all the time. Why are we doing this? Why is it important to the client? Yeah, because otherwise we're going to veer off from their priorities. We're not going to uncover you know what the hidden requirements are on things. And just continuing to keep that front and center, the why, um, even if they don't want to tell you for whatever reason, politically, uh, budget wise, whatever it might be, you'll get to that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that's a great segue to kind of a conversation we were having prior to this, which is centered around, right? Hey, and the examples you just gave, the customer, the client, understanding the why helps inform what we're doing because we're not working in a vacuum. We're working to make sure we're solving for their goals, their outcomes. But you seem to have a philosophy and have embraced this idea of like, all right, let's take that why and move it internally as well.
mhm.
And right, as we think about a lot of the things that we're asking our consulting teams, our professional services teams to do differently in the age of AI, whether that's learn new technical skills, upskill their other things, behave differently, run projects differently, think about our clients differently. All of those things are happening, and that's causing us to ask more and different things of our team. But centering that and anchoring that around the why, I think is a philosophy you have, an important thing in trying to drive any change that's affecting a consulting organization. Can you share a little bit more about how you kind of think about this notion of change in consulting and professional services?
Yeah, and I mean, this is right now we're going through a major, sea change in technology and all that. Um, uh, I am reminded of the beginning of my career with the internet coming in, and the internet was a major change in how we do business. And a lot of the same talking points were going on then. I imagine that before that, well, I know before that, bringing the personal computer into corporate America. Before that, bringing in mainframes and whatever. There's every generation. There's the thing that's going to change everything. And we went through it with the internet, and you look back on it, and everything changed, but the basics were still there. We're still, why are we connecting everything up? And now that we have everything connected up, okay, what can we do with that? What does this enable us to do? With AI, it's a lot of the same thing. I've been doing enablement projects with clients for the past 18 months or so around AI, and they started off with a lot of really basic questions. A lot of people didn't really know how to spell AI, right? And so they're just learning about it, and it looks a lot like Google, and so I'm going to put my keywords in there. And then why am I only getting Google responses? This isn't any good. And so learning how to use it from a personal productivity standpoint. Now we're getting to an inflection point where companies are realizing that there are ways to use this for strategic benefits, right? And so that mindset is changing. Again, it comes back to why are we doing this, and what does it enable us to do? These sea changes. Internet comes in. Well, now we can communicate faster. AI coming in, we talk a lot about doing things faster and doing jobs faster, and how many FTEs can we replace, with an agent. And I think that that's an important thing to consider with AI is how fast we can do things in doing things faster, but it's not the only one. It allows us to do things better. It allows us to raise the quality of the work that we do. And it allows us to take on tasks that in the past we just wouldn't even think about doing because it's just too much work. We don't have the time to do these things. So now, not only can we do what we're doing now faster, but we can do it better and we can do more of it. And so, all of those are challenges to, we're IT consultants, we're technical people. It's a challenge to us to use that to allow us to do things faster, but also it's a new tool for us with our clients to help them do things faster, better, and more of them. And so, that's with the team. That's the challenge that we have to them is, okay, how do you take what you're doing now and integrate AI, whether it's helping you write code faster, that's great. But how can we leverage this tool? What does this give us that we can give to our clients to help them? How can we? I have people who are admins. I have people who are developers. I have people who are architects. And it's going to change everybody. Everything that you're doing, it's going to impact you. But at the end of the day, we're still solving business problems. We're still enabling for business opportunities. So how do we integrate this? What do we do? And that's the challenge that I put out to them. And a lot like users, they start off with personal productivity. How do I do this? How do I do my job faster? Right. But then it's as they get into it and understand it and work with it, it's okay. Oh, I see how we can now. We can call this. We can call a model in order to do some of these things or enable the client to understand what they have better. So it's really interesting to see. I have weekly a weekly meeting with a small team that we're training up on AI. And I've told them it's a choose your own adventure, right? Mm-hmm. Because I have people who are architects, people who are developers, people who are admins, and it's always okay. Well, how do you see this? How do you see what you're doing now in a world with AI? Where does it fit for you? How can you now leverage this? You know more about it. You understand it. Okay, how do you leverage that? And so it's been a lot of fun, and I'm a long way from technical. Those days are behind me. I haven't written code in a long time, but being able to hear them, think about this in kind of those ways, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's got to be fun to watch the team go through that journey that you're taking them through right now. But I mean, in so many ways, like in listening to what you're describing here, and you may not use these words, but it feels like you're changing a lot of the elements of your business model all at the same time. You're changing the offers that you're taking to market. You're changing how you deliver. You're changing the talent model that you need to thrive in this environment. You're doing a lot of these things simultaneously. Does the team feel like that's what's happening to them, or I mean, how is that being structured, communicated internally, and how do you guys think about that framing
Yeah,
that I just teed up?
yeah, they do, especially on the technical side. They hear all about vibe coding and how we can have 8-year-olds write ERP systems, and things like that. And so there is a lot of, well, am I going to have a job in 6 months? And so I think that what I've put to them and what I put to our sales team also is that our value proposition hasn't changed, but we need to say the quiet part out loud. Our value proposition, what we've always said was, we know how to do that, right? We have people who are qualified, who have the technical knowledge. Well, in the age of AI, that technical knowledge, that's not the only thing that's needed. So we need to say the rest of our value proposition, that we know how to do it safely, securely, so it can scale, right? All of those things that we kind of took for granted, that of course we're going to make this so it's scalable. Of course we're going to make this so it's secure. Of course we're going to make this so it works in your environment, and and it fails gracefully, and all those other things. Um, but those need to be said now, because in the age of you know high school kids writing applications, you know they don't have the experience to understand what those things mean necessarily, right? And so it's you still need experts. You still need experts to understand, okay, what you're giving me, Claude, what you're giving me, Gemini, what you're giving me, Copilot, what you're giving me, ChatGPT, that's it'll compile, but just because it compiles doesn't mean that it works. And so we need to expand on what our value proposition is in the world.
And we completely agree, right? I mean, with that mindset shift that's happening, where the differentiation for your organization becomes your ability to advise, not just have the expertise, right? It's more than just knowing what to do and how to do it, but how do you actually get the client to the outcome that they bought? Have you found it easier, more difficult, maybe somewhere in between, on positioning that value prop as a differentiator? And like, how does that, how's the team's comfort level with it? How's the market receiving that? Because sometimes we're uncomfortable selling hey, the true value here is us and our ability to do this, rather than the true value here is all the knowledge that our organization has. If you understand the difference there, how has that shift
Yeah,
gone?
in terms of selling that to the market, I think that's the big challenge for professional services in this age. If I can go to a web browser and be able to have it create a project plan for me, or create a business plan to dominate the world, and in 3 easy clicks I can have that business plan. um, yeah, selling that, I think that's the challenge for us, is to be able to say and prove that we do have that value. We do know how to do these things properly, securely, scalable. All those other pieces. And you know, we've always had clients who think that their son-in-law can do this better, right? And whether it's with AI, or whether it was they took a class in web design, right? We've always had those clients, and we've always had to prove our value. I think this is it's just another way that we're have to prove our value, in another scenario. So.
Yep. No, that makes sense. And so as you think about this new way of communicating, new way of behaving, new way of doing, I mean, your AI skills that the team is developing, there's an element of, hey, there's information out there that can teach them how to do that. But how do you, what are you doing? How are you thinking about, how do you make that stick and actually turn that into practice rather than just theory or new skills or lessons somebody could
Yeah.
read about somewhere?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point because just saying go out and do this. Everyone's busy. It's you have 1,000 things going on. Most of my people have kids that they have to get to school, get to practice, get to do their homework, right? So we're all pulled in 1,000 different directions. And so I've set up a weekly cadence with the team. Now they're all on projects, they're all doing stuff, but the expectation is that you come to that with something that you've learned in the past week, something that you thought was interesting. I have our best AI engineer is part of this group too. And then I have several people who are learning. And so we go around and I ask each one of them, what'd you learn this week? Is there something that you found interesting? And then that gives them the chance to show off their own knowledge. It gives them a chance to ask questions about it. Then the our engineer, our AI engineer, he's there to pull out some other information from them, to ask them, to give them a little bit more color on what they've learned, right? So it helps them. They're not just learning in a vacuum. They're learning something, and we don't have the time to set up an 8-hour day training course for them to go through it. No, we want them to be doing this as they are still working. But now they can go off, they can learn some stuff, bring it to this group, and use their own words to explain it. I think that helps people retain things. It helps them form ideas and crystallize ideas. But then also now they have somebody who knows this stuff a lot better than they do, who is giving them feedback, who's asking them more questions, giving them some direction. Um, I also have that AI engineer talk about a current project that he's on. Okay, well, what are we doing? How are we doing this? What are some roadblocks you're running into? Right, so they can understand real world where this gets applied, and they all have their skills, and these skills can be applied within the AI world. Okay, well now I've seen what it looks like. I've kind of come to using that as a phrase. What does it look like? And I think that as we're learning things or we're trying to teach, whether it's skills, technical skills or interpersonal skills, we tell people something, but what does that look like? Is I think the important way to take that theory and okay, how do I actually do this? Uh, how have we done this in the past? Okay, people in my company have done this way. Oh, okay, I'm allowed. Give me permission to do that, right? And trying to help people bridge from the theoretical to the actual. That's one way of doing it, giving them some track to run on.
Yeah, you've done a couple of things there that we find very effective organizations are also doing. Right. One is you've created a culture of continuous learning, but also experimentation, right? Where people can try new things, they can do and they're rewarded for that and encouraged to do some of that experimentation. The second thing that I heard from that is you've put the onus of development not only on the organization but on the individual. They need to come prepared to go and talk about something new that they've done in a project or in a real life scenario, and what did it feel like, what were the benefits from it. And then the third thing is you've started to create, and this is something you and I have talked about before, stories around what does this mean for our organization when we behave in this particular way. So now I don't have to do that. Dean could behave in a certain way. He could share that story with me. And now I have the knowledge that can say, hey, we do it this way here. And this is what this means for us. And it creates this isn't just something we're learning. This is an identity change for us as an organization. This is who we are as a business. And I don't know if you'd add anything else to that, but I mean, those three things are incredibly powerful for people change and just change management generally. Dean, it looks like
the only thing I'd add to what John said, the way he said it, is he also built a community. We're talking about it. We're interacting. We're in a safe environment. I think that's really great. But the really key thing, John, that we don't see enough of that you're doing is, and Anthony made it, is making those assignments and getting people to reach up to the organization, which is really needed in consulting and professional services, as opposed to corporate where they reach down.
No, I agree, and it's, we're talking about learning technical skills, but also we do a lot of work with professional skills, interpersonal skills, consulting skills, and it's the same thing. I've worked with technical people for a long time, and they have a reputation, and it's not wholly unearned. For many that they would prefer a keyboard to interpersonal,
to a human,
right? And as a consultant, though, you don't have that luxury, right? You need to be able to work with a client. You need to be able to ask the question. You need to be able to deliver bad news to a client. You need to be able to push back and say, I think what this is the direction you should be going. So we try and teach those skills kind of the same way. A company I work for, we're over the last 5 years, we've acquired several different companies, and so we have several different cultures coming together. And from that standpoint, it was for a while, we had silos, and the silos were built up just because, well, I worked for this company, and so these are the people that I know. This is the work that I'm doing, and so I'm talking to those people. And we've been trying to break those down. My group is custom development, and so we kind of work with security, we work with cloud, and we work with the different groups, the different practices. But we're trying to create common stories. How do we do this? It's not how did you do this. It's how now it's tell that story. Now that's how we do these things. This is how we meet this challenge. And so it's whether it's technical with the AI, helping them understand how to get questions answered, how can we implement this, but also with the non-technical skills, and well, what do we do as a company to solve these problems? And so those are actually, I said that I haven't written code in a long time. These are the challenges that I'm tackling, and really I enjoy that. I enjoy seeing my people take those leaps and be able to be confident in a meeting in their abilities, and be able to show this is what we do, and and defend their decisions. This is why we propose this. A lot of times that's the first issue is well, I want to do this. In fact, I just had this conversation with one of my younger consultants the other day. We'd met with a client, and the client said that they wanted to design a SharePoint site this way. And afterwards, we were talking, and I asked her how she thought it should be designed. She thought it should be designed a different way, but the client asked for this. I'm like, no, the client asked for for us to be the experts. And so we need to bring to them why we think it's this way. I said, you know what, build it, mock it up both ways, but say why you don't think this is best, what they've asked for, this is what I hear you asking for, but this is why this will be better. So you need to be able to own your decisions and own your expertise. Right. And so
Own your opinions.
yeah,
Yeah.
own your
Hey,
opinion.
John, you another thing you're doing, which is really great, is whenever we talk to leaders.
Tell me more.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, well, you need that, John. You need that. And anyway, is leadership's always about other people,
Yeah.
right? And we need to remember that. I mean, I do a lot of CEO conversations, and I'm always having to repeat, hey, you know what? You're the leader. It's about the other people. But hey,
Yeah.
John, this has been really great, and we're going to have you back because there's a lot of, now that you're in your 30s, there's a lot of wealth of information in there. So hey, leave us with the one thing you would tell a leader like yourself that has got a big PS organization going through this yet one more transformation. What's a piece of advice you would leave them?
I think that having gone through, starting with the internet and now with AI, right, is that things, there's always the revolution, but at the end, we're still doing the same things. We have different tools, we have different language, we have different, different things that we're doing, but, in the end, we're still, as consultants, we're still trying to get business to be better. We're still trying to help the business, and people have jobs to do. They're asking us to help them do their job better, right? And now this is another tool. So it's I guess it's the more things change, the more they're the same, right? So
Great, John. Great. That's very good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, John.
thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed the conversation that we just had with John and want to hear more like it, our YouTube page, The Consultant's Way, or follow The Consultant's Way podcast on Apple or Spotify. And you can make sure you get the latest episodes pushed to you every Monday if you subscribe there. Looking forward to a bunch of great guests that we have coming up the first part of this year that we've already recorded and have planned to release. So if you hit that subscribe button, you'll make sure you get those and don't miss out. If you want to get a hold of Dean or myself, you can reach out to us on our respective LinkedIn pages, and we'll get back to you shortly. Or you can always reach out to the show at podcast@consultantsway.com if you have a topic idea, a guest idea, or just a general question for us. Happy to take all of those. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.